Welcome to this explainer. Right now, there's a multi-billion-dollar mystery probably sitting on the top shelf of your local auto parts store. Today, we're tearing the label off that premium jug of motor oil to see what's actually going on inside. We've all been there, right? You reach for that premium golden jug, and you just kind of assume it's whipped up from scratch in some pristine, futuristic lab. Or, hey, maybe you're on the cynical side and think it's just regular old petroleum that's been washed, filtered, and marked up by 30%. But the truth? It's actually this crazy, fascinating blend of wartime survival, intense chemical engineering, and, well, a massive corporate loophole. So let's dive right into this. You see the words full synthetic slapped on literally everything nowadays. But that label? It sits dead center between a massive engineering breakthrough and a technicality that completely flipped the automotive world on its head. It's not pure magic, but it's definitely not just a scam either. So let's peel back the layers of this everyday chemical marvel and look at what's actually happening on a molecular level. Forged in war and skies, because, believe it or not, the story of the liquid protecting your modern car engine doesn't even start in an auto shop. It actually begins out of brutal necessity during World War II. The whole timeline of this innovation was literally born from sheer desperation. Back in 1925, heavily industrialized Germany had almost zero crude oil reserves. So two chemists, Franz Fischer and Hans-Tropsch, pulled off what honestly looked like alchemy at the time. Using extreme heat and pressure, they managed to build liquid oil out of coal gas by stringing carbon monoxide and hydrogen atoms together. Then, fast forward a bit to between 1938 and 1944. Scientists were testing over 3,500 different synthetic formulas just trying to find a lubricant that wouldn't freeze solid on the absolutely brutal frozen Eastern Front, or vaporize inside those scorching hot tank engines. Eventually, by 1972, a former jet fighter pilot named Al Amatuzio took this incredible aviation-grade survival tech, brought it down to the asphalt, and launched the very first synthetic oil for passenger cars. After the war, the aviation industry just took this tech and ran with it because the demands got even more extreme. I mean, early jet engines spun so insanely fast and ran so unbelievably hot, the traditional mineral oil would just instantly break down. Literally within minutes, it would turn into this completely destructive sludge and carbon crust. To keep planes in the sky, the aviation world had absolutely no choice but to rely entirely on these synthesized molecules. Section 2. The secret API classification system. Now, to really understand why all this high-flying history actually matters for your morning commute, we need to expose a hidden categorization system used by the American Petroleum Institute. Think of this like a secret menu for motor oil, broken down into 5 distinct groups. Groups 1 and 2, those are your traditional mineral oils pumped straight from crude petroleum. They're packed with chaotic, mismatched molecules that easily burn or break apart under high heat. Now, skip all the way down to groups 4 and 5. These are the real deal, true lab-built synthesis. Group 4 uses ethylene gas to build perfectly identical hydrocarbon chains completely from scratch, while Group 5 relies on polar molecules, like esters, that physically bond to metal for extreme racing conditions. But the most important row for everyday drivers like you and me, that would be Group 3. And here is where the real plot twist happens. Group 3 oil actually starts out as dirty crude oil straight from the ground. But then it undergoes this severe process called hydrocracking. It is literally smashed with hydrogen gas under just brutal pressure and temperature. This strips away the impurities and reshapes its molecules into something that is remarkably uniform. So it ends up looking and acting exactly like a true synthetic, even though it was born in the dirt. Section 3, the lawsuit that changed everything. Which brings us to a massive industry showdown, answering the million-dollar question that changed the bottles on our shelves forever. How can Group 3 oil, pumped out of the ground, legally be sold as full synthetic? Well, back in 1999, this exact technicality sparked a massive corporate clash. Mobil filed a deceptive marketing complaint against Castrol. They had noticed that Castrol quietly switched their Syntec formula from that super expensive lab-made Group 4 oil over to this highly refined Group 3 crude oil, but they were still labeling it full synthetic. Mobil argued, hey, true synthetics must be built entirely from scratch. But Castrol thought back. They brought in the hard science to prove that their hydrocracking process altered the raw petroleum so severely that it performed almost exactly like a true synthetic. And the crucial turning point was how the Better Business Bureau Review Board ultimately ruled. They sided with Castrol. They stated that the word synthetic describes the performance and the chemical transformation achieved during refining, not just what the starting ingredient was. That single monumental decision fundamentally changed the global marketing definition. And because of that ruling, the vast majority of full synthetic oil you see on shelves today, it's actually highly refined Group 3. Section 4, liquid, gas, and the clear water miracle. But science rarely just sits still. Today, there's a third, totally mind-bending path to creating the base oil for your engine, and it's known as modern gas-to-liquid technology. 1.6 billion. Just wrap your head around that number for a second. Every single day at the Pearl GTL plant in Qatar, 1.6 billion cubic feet of natural gas is consumed by this massive facility. They use a modern evolution of that 1925 Fischer-Tropsch reaction we talked about earlier. They break the natural gas down to its fundamental atomic blocks and rebuild it into pristine, perfect liquid hydrocarbon chains. The end result? A base oil that is 99.5% pure. When this stuff flows out of the processing tower, it doesn't look anything like dark, sludgy petroleum. It pours crystal clear, literally like pure mountain spring water. It's completely free of the sulfur, nitrogen, and all those unwanted aromatic compounds you'd find in raw crude. It is, for sure, a modern engineering miracle. Section 5, the anatomy of a bottle. But wait, here is the catch. Whether you're looking at highly refined Group 3 crude or this crystal clear liquid gas, that base oil cannot protect your engine all on its own. If you look inside any bottle on that auto parts store shelf, the liquid in that jug is mostly base oil, usually making up around 70 to 90% of the volume. But that remaining 10 to 30%, that is made up of a heavily engineered, highly secretive chemical additive package. These additives are truly the unsung heroes of your engine. They do all the heavy lifting. This package includes detergents that actively scrub out internal carbon deposits. It features zinc compounds known as ZDDP, which actually create microscopic sacrificial shields on high-pressure metal parts so they don't grind together. And crucially, it includes viscosity modifiers. These are special polymers that physically expand when they get hot, ensuring the oil stays perfectly thick in the scorching July heat, but remains thin enough to flow instantly on a freezing January morning. Section 6, the final verdict. So after unraveling all of this corporate legal maneuvering, the history, and the incredibly complex chemistry, we have to ask, is that bottle on the shelf just a big scam? Absolutely not. Modern Group 3 hydrocracked oils are exceptionally high-performing and honestly perfect for 99% of drivers on the road today. They offer outstanding resistance to extreme heat and cold, but there is a golden rule you have to remember. While those synthetic base oil molecules are incredibly tough and resist breaking down, that chemical additive package, the detergents and the zinc we just talked about, eventually gets completely consumed. And that leads us to our final thought. The next time you pull your dipstick, remember that you aren't just looking at dirty fluid. You're looking at a century of molecular engineering designed specifically to protect your engine, every single mile. But since those crucial additives inevitably run out, you really have to ask yourself, if synthetic oil isn't immortal, what is the true cost of pushing your engine past its limits? Because no matter how advanced the chemistry gets, if you wait too long, the sludge will still find you. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.